on the House of Lords, it's been a very, very difficult institution to become part of in many ways, partly because it is astonishingly arcane and complex, and it's almost as if every time they've had the chance to make it simpler or more complicated, they go for the complicated option. And it doesn't matter whether it's, well, the number of things that have staggered me are too numerous almost to mention. I did talk a lot, but after I was mentioned in August, I did talk a lot about abolition, because the Green Party view is that we should abolish it and have a fully elected chamber, and to me that seems incredible good sense. But in spite of that, all the people who are peers at the moment have been very friendly and surprisingly welcoming, and it has been, I think, quite strange thing for me to find that there's almost no politics outside the chamber, and even in the chamber itself there's less party politics than you could have expected. Having been on a council, having been at a city hall, you know, party politics is the bread and butter of our existence, you know, fighting off the other political parties, or trying to cooperate with them. But at the House of Lords it's very, very different, and I was extremely surprised at just how liberal some of the opposition benches are. Both Lib Dems and Tories talk as if they weren't Lib Dems and Tories. And on one recent bill that's been going through that is an overwhelmingly illiberal, cruel, nonsensical piece of legislation, and there's quite a lot of those coming through at the moment. A Tory peer stood up and said in all his years in the House he'd never actually seen such bad legislation, badly written, badly conceived, and it seems to me that because once you're there, you can't really be got rid of unless you, I don't know, murder somebody or do something horrendous. And so people are much freer. There's not the same obligation to listen to the party whips, and so people do express themselves more freely. I've been there, since I've been there, and I only went in on the 5th of November and only got sort of speaking rights on the 28th of November because of all the process I had to go through. Since then, there's been the gagging bill, the transparency of lobbying bill, there's been the policing bill and the pensions bill going through, all of which are deeply flawed pieces of legislation. But unfortunately, it's the rump end. They've been through the many, many processes, the first reading, second reading, committee stages and all that sort of thing. And we're now in the last sort of stages of trying to improve them. And it is quite surprising just how many of the peers take this really, really seriously and go through all this legislation line by line, clause by clause, to try to improve it. And recently, there's a piece of legislation has been batted backwards and forwards. Apparently they call it ping pong. I read in a paper, nobody's actually told me that phrase, where it goes one day to the Lords, back to the Commons, then back again to the Lords in very quick succession. Part of the problem for me is that without a whip, without a party political structure inside the House of Lords, I'm very much on my own in terms of finding out what goes on, and it constantly it's a constant surprise when legislation is being debated, and I think I'm in there for one piece of legislation, actually it's another piece of legislation, most of which I do care about. But without a whip, without any processes, I've become an associate member of the crossbenchers. Now, the SNP members of the House of Lords and the Welsh Plaid Cymru are also associate crossbenchers. Now, I can't sit on their seats. I mean, that's a whole different set of... I mean, most of these rules that I'm breaking at the moment aren't even written down. Some of them are written down. You're not allowed to be on your feet when the speaker's on their feet. And the number of times I've been dragged back to sit down because I've stood up at the wrong moment, I've lost count of. And people are quite patient to come up to me and explain exactly what I've done wrong, which is very nice of them. But as I say, some of these rules aren't written down, and it is intensely annoying for somebody like me who isn't good with rules anyway. I had a long, complex explanation, for example, what the dress code was, and in fact there is no dress code, apart from no jeans, no exercise shoes, whatever they are, and no bare arms on women. So that's the dress code. Mind you, the men aren't allowed bare arms either. They're not allowed to take their jackets off. So it's actually women have an easy. Oh, no, I can wear a cardigan. That's completely false piece of information. I thought I couldn't wear a cardigan. Anyway, I had to wear a jacket, but that's not true. I did want to say something about the political makeup, though, because of course there's quite a lot of crossbenchers there at the moment, and they are a very, very mixed bunch. They are not automatically aligned with the party who got them there. Some of them are people's peers and so on. And two crossbenchers spoke to me the other day about why I was voting a particular way on a bill, and I explained why I was voting that way. One of them went off and voted the same way. It was the easiest vote I've ever got. All those dark, wet Wednesday nights down in Southwark trying to get votes, well, that in the House of Lords was the easiest vote I've ever got. And it did strike me that I could probably get more if I engaged more with the crossbenchers, so that's something that I'm planning for the future. If there's any questions, just stop me, because obviously this is a specialist topic for me now, and I'm quite enthused about it. I've got a peg, which I got on my first day with my name scribbled on it by the doorman. Very nice. I've also got a locker now, but I don't have a desk or an office or anything like that, although they are trying to find one. I am employing somebody out of my House of Lords allowances. I'm employing somebody to help me 1 or 2 days a week, and it's creeping up all the time, so it's about 2 days a week at the moment. She tries to deal with all my correspondence, that sort of thing. There's quite a lot. And unlike almost every other level of government, there's a lot of written stuff still. I get a lot of letters still. It's not just all by email. Caroline Lucas's office is being absolutely fantastic. They've given my assistant a desk, which is wonderful, and also they're good with advice on all the processes. Unfortunately, the processes for the House of Lords are not the same for the House of Commons, so we're all learning at the moment. I'm trying to fundraise. I haven't made much of a start at the moment, but I am trying to fundraise because it's obvious that it would be easy to disappear into the House of Lords. You could be doing some very, very worthy work, but nobody would know about it because we just don't have the people to publicise it, to help me with, again, all the letters and reading up on the bills, for example. At the moment, I'm relying on other people. I'm relying on campaign groups, on other Greens who are advising me on bills. But obviously, that's something I'll need more of in the future. Do you want me to shut up?
No, we've got until 20 past on the timetable, but if people want you need to leave a bit of space for questions.
Okay, fine. There's a few things that are so arcane and so stupid that they leave me breathless. And one of them is that outside the chamber, there's something called the Prince's Chamber. There's a blue carpet in there. If you are a peer, you're allowed to stand on it and you're allowed to talk on it. If you are not a peer, you've got to keep walking. You can only be on that piece of carpet if you're with a peer, and you've got to keep walking. You're not allowed to stop, and you're not allowed to talk. So if anybody would like to explain that to me, I'm here. There are a few ways that I can have an impact, even though I don't have any sort of party structure behind me in the House of Lords. Obviously, I think of you as a support group. I can put questions for short debate, and I can also put topical questions for short debate. And I've actually put down a question for short debate on water cannon, and there are all sorts of rules about what you can ask and what you can't ask. But I have asked what the government is planning to do on water cannon, because that's an issue for London, that we might be getting water cannon, and I am very much against that and want to hear. When you ask a question like that, they produce a government minister who will answer the question, and then you're allowed a couple more questions and get answers. I'm very much looking forward to that. That's on the 12th of February. It's quite interesting the relationships you make in a place like that, because everybody's very friendly. People all the time are saying, let's have coffee together, let's have tea, and that sort of thing. If you need any help, just get in touch. But actually, the people that you have the closest links with are the people that you came in with. It's this sort of the newbie group, the people who were on all your acclimatisation, lectures and things like that, because they understand what it's like and they understand the difficulties, and they are in fact very supportive. And I found generally that Tories are much, much easier to get on with. Labour is seeing me as a bit of a threat. And you know, on one level they're discussing whether or not I could have some of their briefings about the bills. On another level, they are quite edgy with me and not sure how to take me. As far as the Tories are concerned, I'm a curiosity. I'm absolutely no threat. And you know, we sit down and we gossip, and it's all very, very easy.